Representative Fott, you are recognized to introduce our Veteran of the Week.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, it's really a pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Ted Hine today. We have so few of our World War II veterans that are still around, so it's really an honor to have him. I just want to give you just a little bit of background before we read the citation. Dr. Hine actually enlisted in 1944 of July as a teenager, and he was a Navy petty officer. At 17, he began his training as a combat medic and a hospital corpsman. He began working as an operating room tech and a surgical team that cared for our injured servicemen. As a petty officer of 3rd class, he was stationed on the west coast of the United States and received the injured from the Pacific Campaign. He often tells that he was the Marines' best friend because when the Marines needed a corpsman, he was there to take care of them. As the Navy island hopped to pave the way for the Air Force bombers to reach Japan, the land invasions of Iwo Jima, Tarawa, Saipan claimed many lives and even many more casualties. He worked around the clock with the surgical teams to fight to save the lives of those young Marines who were wounded in those campaigns. One of his other things he may mention when he was stationed, he actually rode in the back of the planes that patrolled the west coast to look for submarines. And he says that whenever they did capture a few of those, they were ready to come because they were out of water and out of food, so they were happy to surrender. As that battle came to a climax, they were preparing to invade Japan. And before they deployed, obviously, President Truman dropped the atomic bomb. And Dr. Hine told me that if the bomb had not been dropped or used, he most likely would not have been here to receive this honor today. He left the Navy in July of '46, and he's been a dentist for 45 years. And his father was a dentist, and his son is a dentist as well. His father was a World War II combat medic, and he received the Distinguished Service Cross. Did I say World War II? It was World War I. Sorry about that. But he received the Distinguished Service Cross when he evacuated a field hospital under fire. Dr. Hine runs marathons, triathlons, and moved on to the Senior Olympics. At age 89, he still does 3 miles a day only because he got a new hip last fall. But he does say he walks very fast. Trust me, he does. He plays the trombone. He plays in our Muskogee Community Choir, or community band, and then I've known him at dedications at Connors where he plays taps with his trumpet at ceremonies. He will turn a young 90 in October. I believe we do have a citation, Madam Speaker.
Clerk will read.
Whereas among the most honored of all those in public service are veterans who have protected all Americans from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And whereas Dr. Ted Hine served from August of 1994 to July 1946 in the United States Navy during World War II. And whereas Dr. Ted Hine was stationed on the west coast of the United States working as an operating room tech on a surgical team caring for servicemen injured in the Pacific campaigns. And whereas Dr. Ted Hine and the surgical teams saved the lives of many Marines injured during the land invasions of Iwo Jima, Tarawa, and Saipan. And whereas the state of Oklahoma takes great pride in honoring Dr. Ted Hine as a soldier of the greatest generation and thanking him for his extraordinary devotion to his nation and its people. And whereas the state of Oklahoma holds our veterans in the highest esteem and appreciates the sacrifices and contributions they have made to preserve our freedoms and privileges we hold so dear. The Oklahoma House of Representatives of the 55th Legislature takes great pride in honoring Dr. Ted Hine as Veteran of the Week. Now, therefore, pursuant to the motion of Representative George Fott, the Oklahoma House of Representatives extends to Dr. Ted Hine sincere congratulations and directs that this citation be presented.
Madam Speaker, we do have a flag that we will present to Dr. Hine for his service, and if he could be recognized for just a few comments.
Dr. Hine, you are recognized.
Well, thanks so much for having me here today. It's an honor for me just to be in your presence. Now, we can all think back of events that happened in our life a long time ago, and we can remember where we were and what we were doing at that very moment. In my generation, one of the biggies, of course, happened on December the 7th, 1941. Mm-hmm. I can remember that beautiful day in eastern Oklahoma, Muskogee, just like it was last Sunday, even though it was about 75 years ago. It was right after church on Sunday, on that beautiful Sunday day, that I went to visit a friend of mine, and as I was getting ready to leave, his dad rushed to the room and said, "I just heard over the radio that the Japanese have bombed Pearl Harbor. I'm afraid that might mean war in time." I rushed home to see my mom. She met me at the door, had this distressed look on her face, and said, "Ted, I didn't know there were any Japanese in Muskogee, and why would they attack Pearl?" It so happens that there was a very prominent businessman in Muskogee named T. Elmer Harbor. He was very famous in our area and well known. He became better known later on working with my friend Ed Edmondson and Senator Robert S. Kerr on the Arkansas navigation system in our port. But Mr. Harbor had a wife named Pearl. She was our Pearl Harbor in Muskogee, and you folks can't believe how relieved my mom and her bitty-mouthed friends were when they found out Pearl was okay, and it was just the beginning of World War II. I can't remember a guy my age, a mid-teenager or a little late teenager, that could hardly wait to enlist. I went to the Air Force recruiter and the Navy recruiter and said, "I want wings, I want to fly." And they said, "Not at 17 years old, you don't qualify." But the Navy recruiter saw that I'd had a couple of semesters pre-med in college and said, "We need you in the medical corps. We want to make a combat medic out of you. You're going to be what they call a hospital corpsman." And to do that and to get the people to enlist in the medical corps, and he said, "We need you so badly because the Pacific campaign is not going exactly as we had planned it. The casualties to the Marines was dreadful. It was terrible. We were taking those islands. The Japanese, they didn't know the word surrender on those islands. We had to fight and scratch for every inch we got to make air bases for our airmen." So I became a hospital corpsman, and as he mentioned, subsequently became an operating room technician. We were always kept safe. They didn't want anything to happen to us because they were afraid if something happened to us, so many of our wounded would not make it. So here we were, a bunch of teenagers working together, trying to save as many and keep as many healthy as we could, come faraway places with strange sounding names: Iwo Jima, Tarawa, Guadalcanal, Saipan. I had no combat experience. I was never shot at. And this morning as I was coming over, I was thinking there are so many more out there that gave so much more than I did that would be more qualified to be here today. But be that as it is, I today feel like I stand here and represent all veterans of all wars. Now for that, God bless each of you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your service.
Will members and guests of the gallery please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Dr. Hine. Dr. Hine, you're recognized.
Place the flag, please. Attention. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,